Good morning, happy campers, and welcome to day 8 of SICSS-Howard Mathematica. We're going to drop our question in the chat box for you. We want to know what your favorite movie is. Also open to movie you hate. Okay, so Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Don't like it. Fight me. Anybody, please drop your favorite or least favorite movie in the chat box. While you start to do that and think about humble bragging, things that went great overnight or this week or this year or this lifetime that you want to share with us, please drop that in the chat box. A quick reminder to be who you are. As you are enough. What you have to give and the questions you bring to the table are enough. Take care of your biological and technological needs as they come up. You should eat whenever you need to eat, on camera even. Please hydrate, 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 hydrate. Turn your camera off if needed. Everyone is a student here, no matter what your title. So we embrace that. Everybody takes a learning posture. Set your personal intention for today. Start thinking about what your personal intention is for this institute. If you haven't done that, it's never too late to do that. It's never too late to change it. Also, is there something specific you want to learn, a skill you want to begin to master? Or do you want to drink all of this in from the fire hose from which is delivered and revisit again after the institute? Because you can watch every single video of every single time we are together on the interwebs on this site. All right, so you can revisit after the institute. Is it collaboration on a project, working across the aisle to someone with a different skill set? Is it taking on a role at the front of the room? Is it taking on an encouraging role at the back of the room? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is it asking questions with confidence? Is it practicing R or Stata or Python or SPSS or whatever your medium is? Set your intention for the day. It can change tomorrow. It can change midday. It's yours and yours alone. Run your own race. Figure that out so somebody else doesn't figure it out for you. Okay. So a few announcements, and we're going to spend most of our time this morning talking about your groups. So I'm going to say this out loud and talk slowly so y'all have time before I hit this part of the agenda. You are allowed to be in one project. One project. So there are a bunch of you that are enterprising, that are across multiple projects. I think it's more than half of y'all. So please, 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 please choose one. So you can either be on a group project or you can invest your time in an individual project. We want you to take this time and focus your attention on one thing. As people of color, as women, and with all our intersectionalities, you know, as scholars, we're often pulled in so many different directions. I guarantee you, all of you had other pulls on your time during this time we were together. And you, to the best of your ability, have chosen to focus your time and attention. I call on you to do the same thing with your project. I'm giving you the gift. We are giving you the gift of total focus on one thing. So figure out, do you want to do an individual project? Do you want to be part of a group project? Choose one. As I mentioned, you will probably develop a research agenda for potentially the next few years, potentially the rest of your career. In this institute. We have 33 different projects on our list right now. And I know that a bunch of you have others in your head that didn't make it to the list. So there are a lot of things you can invest in after this week, but I encourage you to focus your attention on getting your one project as far as you can so that by August, you are able to apply for our funding for that or other outside funding. And you can, you know, work towards finishing one project, okay? If you choose to do others outside of the Institute, we love hearing that. But this week, we want you to focus your attention on one thing. So I'm saying that slowly and out loud, so you now have time to decide what you want to do and adjust that spreadsheet, okay? I want to make a couple announcements about question askers for today. So for Dean, Vice Chancellor, badass, amazing, fantastic person, Lisa Garcia Bedoya, we have 5 people who are asking questions. So that's Erica, Daniel, Rebecca, Rumesa, and Grace. So please, at about 10 minutes to 12, head to the speaker holding room and go hang out with Lisa. She also runs a she has, I think it's a nonprofit data management company or data analytics company. So lots of cool stuff. Google her if you haven't had a chance. she's going to be talking about, or she did talk about on our video, the fact that Berkeley uses regular pulse surveys like we do with you all to get a sense of the student population, both undergrad and grad, and to adjust programming and policy based on that deep understanding. So she'll be talking about that, the benefits of pulse surveys and such. She is a trained political scientist and is at the education school as a faculty member. All right. So then after that, we'll be seeing Kyla McMullen again. So if you enjoyed Kyla on our panel the other day, you're going to get to spend some time with her again. So our question leads on that are Amber, Rumesa, Imani, and Christina. So Kyla, as you know, is a computer scientist, and she's going to be talking about using audio and sound as data. So if you haven't watched that video yet and have some time today, you can do that in your group if your group is in a pretty good place. If you want to watch one of these videos together in your space together, you're welcome to do that. They're both pretty great videos. I also want to encourage you all to stick around after we finish for office hours. So this year, our site has taken on a form, which I think is pretty cool. It used to be sort of individual or small group office hours. Yesterday turned into sort of like an after dark session. So everybody just stayed in the room and we turned off the camera, we turned off the recording, and we just had real talk. So we just talked. I think we had about 10 people stick around on and off, but I'm hoping a couple of them might come on camera and just talk about the experience, obviously without sharing any of the real talk information about what it meant to you. So I have on my list, we don't have the complete list here, but Rebecca, Amber, Susanna, and Andrea were there at the beginning. If one of you could raise your hand and come on camera and just talk about the experience to encourage others to think about attending. I think next year we might just change it to after dark sessions. I thought it was incredible. Could somebody raise your hand and join us and talk about the experience so that we can encourage others to come tonight? So Rebecca's got her hand up, and Andrea, great. Let's bring them on camera, please, Merlin. Rebecca, then Andrea, go for it.
I thought it was a very wonderful experience. I got enticed by the next questions about like how much you get paid when you publish like 2 articles on. So I was interested to listen to like the rate of it, and then the topic just kept going and going. It's very interesting to hear her experience at a place that she called Plantation. And I resonate some experience of hers, and I think that a lot of us we feel that way, and that's why we want to like hear more from her.
Thank you, Rebecca. Andrea?
I would just say that I spent a lot of time just listening to the conversation, and I thought that was just very valuable for me to hear questions that other people asked and to just kind of be a fly on the wall. And it was just a great experience to hear her, and she talked a lot to us. And I think that was great because the questions that got asked, she answered them. And so I would just encourage you, even if you just want to come to listen, I think it's a great use of time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you. Yeah, and I also think given the fact that this year we've done these family sessions where you've all been together, I think we've developed a community and a comfort in leaning on each other, and I love that. So while we will have the option, if you want to meet one-on-one with our speaker tonight or in a small group, we'll probably just shift to an after dark session. So as soon as we finish, we'll turn off the cameras and we'll just let questions fly. So I encourage you all to think about coming and talking to Kyla tonight. As you recall from the other day, we got a question about her experience with imposter syndrome and being the only at the University of Michigan. So I suspect she will be very comfortable continuing to go into that space and talk about that. I also love hearing questions from students, other students like myself, who are trying to manage being one of very few in our departments and keeping our departments accountable for our support and care, and remembering that the model of graduate student has shifted substantially since the 1950s. We are not all single 21-year-old white men with no children. And I think very quickly a lot of universities fall back into that. I won a fellowship at Berkeley and attended a this big reception where they're welcoming us all into the welcome. You want a fellowship? And one of the deans got up. He's not a dean anymore. He got up and he's just like, I remember when I was you all 21, just fresh out of undergrad. And I'm like looking around like, and the whole group of us from sociology were not that. Like we joke that our department has a special scholarship for like old women because they're always admit like, and I say that lovingly, there's a bunch of us who are like in their late 30s who are in the PhD program. We feel like there's a special line for us. So we're like looking around and like who's like a fresh out of undergrad? What's this? This is bullshit. So I really I loved that we got into it and we talked about the various experiences of being other in academe. So please try and join us for that again tonight if you can. Or check in with your colleagues if you can't, or send questions for us to ask if you can't. We'll report back the next day off camera, obviously. All right. Continuing, let's jump into our keep, start, stop. Merlin, if you could go ahead and screen share that for us. Y'all were busy last night. It's a little terse. It's a little barren this morning. I'm assuming that means things are going good or folks just forgot. But Merlin, whenever you have a chance, Merlin is working on it right now, working behind the scenes with the magic. There we go. Okay, thank you, Merlin. So day 7, that was yesterday. We're on day 8 now. Let's take a look. So what do we need to keep? Everything, because no one filled out the form. Okay, next one. What do we need to start? Nothing, because nobody filled out the form. What do we need to stop? Nothing, because no one filled out the form. And finally, anything else? I thought I'd share pictures of my cat. So here you go. So this is Oren Ishii. She's named after Lucy Liu's character from Kill Bill. She is 18. She gives no fucks. She's the most amazing cat. So last night, my spousal person is like, you got to come see, she did something. I'm like, oh, is it cute? He's like, no, she ate some orange flowers and threw up on the white rug. I'm like, awesome. So that's what I had to deal with this morning. So there you go. That's my cat. So, all right. So please fill this out if you have stuff to say. If you got nothing to say, that's great too. Someone said her eyes in the third picture. Yeah, she's gorgeous. She's a tricolor orange tabby, which is pretty unusual. And spousal person has had her since she was about 6 weeks old. And I have now known her for a decade, and she's basically my cat, So she's fabulous. Hopefully she'll come visit as others' cats come visit at some point. Love to see cats, dogs, puppies, plants, whatever you want. We want to make sure we get to know you. All right, so I'll post on Slack at the end of the day. It's pre-scheduled. It pops up about 4 o'clock. I'll try and remember to drop, since we don't have our end of the day session for logistics, since I want you to have as much time as possible for work, that will be up on Slack. But you might want to have it open, and during the day, just drop it in the chat, just fill it in as you go. So Merlin, if you could drop the form into the chat box for us, that would be great. If you can't find it, I can do it later. But Merlin, if you could find the form, please drop that in the chat box. All right, so looking ahead, we're going to review the schedule for the day. Our schedule today is going to look a lot like yesterday's schedule and a lot like tomorrow's schedule. If you can believe it, it's Wednesday. Wednesday, second week. So we're going to take a look at the schedule. There we go. Thanks for the form, Merlin. Do I want you to open what? Yes. Okay. So it is now open. Thank you. Merlin asked me a question. Merlin's right there. Merlin, yes, the form is now live. So feel free to fill things in as you go during the day. All right. So we're going to take a look at the schedule for today as well. And again, there's going to be some symmetry across the next few days. So, okay, let's take a look. So today is Wednesday. Reminder, please refresh Merlin, because I'm seeing there's one edit that I can't see on your page because you haven't refreshed recently. Great. Okay, Mathematica TAs are available via email or Zoom for consultation. I loved seeing our TAs appear yesterday, as if by magic. So please feel free to invite your TAs to come into the space. Again, if you're working on a project and there's an expert out there that maybe from your university or that that could weigh in, you're welcome to invite them to come into the space and join your group for a chat. We welcome that. Just let us know so we know who's coming. I think someone sent us a request for consultation. I got a poll request to come to a room. So when you do that, we'll send someone to come talk to you. If you have somebody who's coming, just come let us know, because we try not to let anyone in we don't recognize. But if you need to do that, that's great. We appreciate that. So 9:30 to 10, we've got logistics, about 10 more minutes of that. Then 12 to 1, our bite-sized lunchtime talk today, as I mentioned, with Lisa Garcia Bedoya. Then you have 1 to 4 to work on your group project some more. And then scroll down, Merlin, thank you. And then 4 to 5:30, our featured presentation, using uncommon data to understand society and its people, live Q&A and office hours with Kyla McMullen. These are great videos. Feel free to watch them both if you have time today. And that's it. So tomorrow, slightly different. I want to jump to tomorrow just since we're not going to review the schedule tonight. So we do have a roundtable in the morning tomorrow. So that only happens twice where we have morning programming. One was Monday, where we had the All Africa event. And this one again is set up so that if anyone from our sites on the continent want to join us, they can. My understanding is they will not, because they have a pretty booked schedule. But we wanted to make this available in the event that they were able to join us. So you'll have a career talk from 3 folks, technically, I guess 4 folks from Mathematica. So they'll answer any of your questions about their organization, and you'll get a sense of the work they do. Should be fun. We're having it set up so you'll actually cycle through rooms. So we'll have a quick introduction, and then we'll have 3, each of these people will have rooms for 20 minutes, and you'll get to spend small group time with them for 20 minutes. So our question askers for that, you may want to just plan to pose your questions to each of them as you cycle through the rooms. I'm not sure if we'll have time for questions at the end, but feel free to use those in your small groups, and just let me know so that when we're back on camera with everyone else, I don't re-ask them, or maybe we do re-ask them so everyone gets to hear the answers. We'll figure it out. It'll be fun. And then everything shifts back to normal after that. So you'll have a bite-sized lunchtime talk in the afternoon, and then also your featured speaker in the evening. So we only have 3 of these days where we have basically 3 live sessions that happen Monday this week and Thursday this week, besides when this happens, I guess, over Praxis Power. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And then Friday is largely your presentations and our keynote, and then also our live closing plenary speaker, Laverne Council, which should be pretty spectacular. All right, so you can drop screen share. So we have just a few more minutes left. Okay. So I wanna, can you let our inspirational speaker in, please, Merlin? Thank you. So just a reminder, TAs are available for Mathematica this week. It is up to you to schedule that, to reach out to them and get on their calendar. If you would like to see them, they're happy to interact with you via email or Zoom, and come to the space. So don't forget you have that. Don't forget you have that option. I also want to remind you that once again, there are no evening debriefs. So all announcements will be on Slack, or I might send out a little notes across our broadcast. So pay attention to broadcast and Slack during the day. Finally, just a reminder, and we'll revisit this after our inspirational speaker, who I know has arrived. We'll jump into her presentation in just a second. But I want to remind you to make sure you have updated your status on our project document. So before we start at we'll say 10:15. We need to whittle that down to 1 project per person. So, excuse me, you are only allowed to be on 1 project by 10:15. So you have to make a choice between an individual or a group project, and let that be known, and remove your name from the other one. Those will be our presentation teams for later. What you choose to do outside of this space, up to you, but we want you to focus your attention this week. So when we finish up with our inspirational speaker, I'm going to go over the funding and research grant RFP, answer any questions. I have some questions that were posed last year, and we'll also announce those teams. So by the time I finish that description, we'll need you to have your teams all set. So with that said, I am going to pause, take a breath, and introduce our inspirational speaker for the day, Donovan Davis. Please take it away, Donovan.
So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see your great faces this morning. I'm Donovan Davis, Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer here at Mathematica, and absolute pleasure to be here today to provide some comments as you start your Wednesday and near the close of your Institute experience. So I'd just like to begin with saying that as you think about the last several days, I'd like you to take time and stop and reflect. Reflect on all of the information you've acquired, all of the hard work you've done, all the relationships and connections you've built, and even some of the challenges you've had to overcome and face to be present and participatory over the last few weeks. My hope for you is as you think about those experiences in totality, that you come out with an elevated sense of intent and purpose. You all are here and participating in this institute for a reason. Your contributions and your influence on the field are tremendous and limitless. I hope you also come out with a new sense of boldness, the significance of your work, and not only because of what you do, but the important, unique, and diverse perspectives that you bring to the work. Highly important and critical. As well as an expanded awareness of your greatness. As you go through your professional career, be unapologetically you. Challenge yourself to evolve and grow, but challenge others to do the same. All the while being firmly planted in the values and principles that have gotten you to this point and would continue to guide you along your career and professional journey. So I'd just like to say in close, be rooted in your purpose, fearless in your work, and be clear about how outstanding you all are. There's such tremendous power and influence on this call, both individually and collectively. And I am truly humbled, honored to have shared brief time and space with you today. And as you continue on your professional journey, I truly wish you all the best. I say have a wonderful rest of your institute and a great Wednesday. And really appreciate the invitation to be with you this morning. So those are my words. Hopefully something I said briefly resonated with you and you can take away as you go through the rest of this institute and your professional career.
Please join me in thanking Donovan. I think all of that resonated with me. The being bold and to be unapologetically yourself. I needed that this morning, especially after I F-bombed a little bit earlier. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
I'm having
Donovan.
hard time hearing, but again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and take care, everyone.
So I just have to say that that meant a lot to me this morning, and she did not let the technological get in the way of the work there. She could not hear us, but she wanted to make sure that we heard her. So you know, sometimes there's background noise and things that get in the way of our best intentions, and she powered through as we do. So thank you, Donovan. All right, I've seen some activity in our sheet. We've got two folks who I'm assuming are not present right now, who still need to make decisions about what teams they are on. So I will give you the space and the time, Grace and Daniel, to work that out. I love the new column, the innovation of the new column called Member After the Program. Imani is on all teams, and I am here for that. Like SICSS brings a skill set that we all need. Okay, so I'm very excited about that innovation. Please feel free to add yourself to that column if the limitation of focus on just one this week is something that you want to break out of the week after. Please go ahead and do that. But if you're on a team with Daniel and Grace, please check in with them and make sure that sooner rather than later they land on one team. All right, so let's so we're going to briefly go over, and I apologize, I'm taking a little of your time here, but I feel like it's important for us to actually walk through the RFP together, and for me to address a few questions that came up last year and answer any of yours. That also gives you a little bit more time to be in touch with our last two members who need to make a decision, so we can announce that. Merlin, can you do me the favor of sharing our RFP? So actually, I'm going to drop that in the chat box. I love, throwing curveballs at Merlin. Merlin's like, why? Give me these things in advance. Okay, so everybody, oops, that's the name of the document, not the hyperlink. Let's see. All right, so we've got copy link URL. So if everybody could join me in this document, I want to make sure that we go through it. I think it was Asha who early on asked about this document when we were going to announce. So we ended up announcing it very early on. But I want to make sure that we go over it together as a group, and I tell you about the questions we got about this last year. Okay, so this is open to both alums from last year, 2021, and then also all of you 2022 participants. I'll remind you that you have that list of everybody's research interests. So after the fact, if you think that there's somebody from last year who might have something to add to this year, you may want to reach out and ask them if they want to join your team. You can also review all their bios on our website. If you need to track them down, there's always the Googles. Some of them have joined us in this space, and I hope you ask for their email addresses. But everybody on our, everybody's pretty easy to find. All right. So each individual person can only be on one team for a funding ask. So if you put in an individual application, that precludes you from joining a group team this cycle this year. Okay. So we may have some folks that reapply for funding to continue their project last year. You saw those presentations. They will not be able to join another team for funding. So the funding is one ask. And again, there's that list. There's that list of people that are involved with projects, but may not be named in the physical application. But we want to make sure this gets out to as many people as possible. Okay. So research funding is limited to participants in just our sites. If you want to bring others into it as part of a team, there must be at least 2 people from one of our iterations as part of the team. So you can pile on 10 other people if you want. Because they have a content expertise or skill expertise, but there must be at least 2 people from our SICSS site on the project. So if you are doing an individual project for some schools, you're required to have a PI in the traditional PI sense of the word. So you'll notice that Todd, there's another person listed, that's his advisor. So in an individual situation, if you are a student and required to have a PI listed, it's all dependent on your school. That's something we can talk about. And I will most likely do info sessions as you work through applications if you'd like after the fact, because you have until August to apply. All right, let's see what funding is available. Funding is available to run surveys, pay for cloud computing, website or app hosting costs, purchase data, or other research costs for individual and group projects. I will say from last year, we were less likely to fund individuals for their expenses. So if you are wanting to hire a research assistant or sort of comp your own time, we're less likely to fund those sorts of things. We are pretty likely to fund the types of expenses we listed here and others you can think of. But this is not meant to be a fellowship or to fill a gap in funding, personal funding from your university. If that is a thing you're struggling with, happy to talk about that and tell you the ways that I sort of found my way through that. But I will say we are less likely to fund that. So how much funding is available? Project budgets for this program typically range from $200 to $2,500. In rare cases, we may consider funding at higher levels. We definitely got higher level funding requests last year. Once you go above that amount, our expectations for how built out the project are increased. So really easy to get lower levels of funding for the types of things that I mentioned. But if you're asking us for $10,000 or $15,000 or even $3,000, the expectation for the level of preparation and investment in it is quite a bit higher. So it's something to think about. And this is a friendly space. So after you submit, if you don't quite get what you expected and you want a sit down with me and I can go over the advice or feedback from the people that reviewed your application, I'm happy to do that. I think about this as being a participatory funding opportunity. So I am available and our team is available to give you feedback and talk through this as you do it. That allows you the chance to learn and grow in this space, and it's not just all or nothing. So the all or nothing example, I think, works very well for the 1950s version here of the student that knows everything they need to know going in to this and has a stable of people and knowledge from 82 generations of being in PhD programs. But a participatory model allows you to learn as you go. So I am definitely open to talking through applications and giving you and having conversations with you as you go. How will proposals be evaluated? They'll be evaluated according to several principles in no particular order. The importance of the project to computational social science, the quality of the research design proposed, the connection to the theme of SICSS-Howard Mathematica, countering anti-Black racism and inequity. I just noticed there's a typo there. I'm going to fix that. Black should be capitalized and there should be a hyphen. I'm going to work on that. Merlin, I don't know if you can edit that or one of our team members, but if you can, please do that. Benefit to the SICSS-Howard Mathematica or broader SICSS community. Successful proposals need not address each of these dimensions. And there are a lot of topics that land in the inequity space that cover other types of racism or other isms that we are also open to also. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Okay, don't worry about it, Merlin. We'll fix it later. All right, priority will be given to projects that stand to benefit larger groups of people inside or outside of the SICSS community with a focus on SICSS-Howard Mathematica theme in the form of open access tools, data, or other resources, or extended existing research and methodology to include underrepresented groups. We also strongly encourage you to pre-register your hypotheses if your project involves answering an empirical research question, okay? So how to apply for funding, there's the form there. It needs to be completed by Wednesday, August 31st. So we wanted to give you a good stretch of time so your group can start to coalesce. Our expectation is that we will turn around responses within a month and hopefully get you your funding within the fall semester. Applicants should be prepared to provide information including a brief descriptive title, 125 characters, an abstract, no more than 200 words. We try to make this something that is accessible and also not tedious for you. But with 100, I will tell you a secret, when applications ask for shorter things like 125 and 200, it's expected to be dense. So you really want to invest time in making that dense. So the shorter it is, the greater expectation I'd say there is for that content. That's insider stuff. Should be written for a non-specialist audience, clearly explaining the project's principal focus, questions and expected results. I think principal is misspelled there. A biographical sketch, 200 words or less, of the principal investigator. So PI for us is not PI the way that your university thinks about it. So the PI, any of our students or faculty that are in this space or postdocs can be the main PI. So if the content speciality is yours, or the data set is yours, or the primary methodological approach to this is yours. If you are carrying a heavy weight, you may want to present yourself as the principal investigator. Talk to your group about that. The principal investigator in the sense of IRB will most likely need to be different at all of your institutions if you are a student, okay? So we need a biographical sketch for everybody on the team, but you want to make sure you identify who your main point of contact is. Totally open for it to be more than one person too. Would be hard if it's to 8 people. would be hard. But you know, yay, I'm all about like a collective, but please don't give me 10 principal investigators, okay? An itemized budget with budget narrative. I'm happy to talk through and review these with you all as you go. There is a definite skill and to doing this. It's something you should learn to do earlier in your career. We don't prescribe a particular format. There's a ton of them on the web. To be simple, the simplest information that's in it is what is the thing we're paying for, description, why are we paying for, how many of those things are we paying for, and how much do they cost each. You know, and those things should be thoughtful and directly connected to what you're doing. So we don't want a list of things that you might use. We want it to be targeted, because if it's an expansive list of stuff that you ultimately aren't going to be using, we'll probably zero in on the things that seem most critical. Okay, so be thoughtful about that, and I'm happy to look at those. We can set up some sessions. All right, and then you need a narrative that's description and brief details about other sources of funding or support for the project, including pending proposals. So I don't know about you, but when someone asks for this, I'm like, I'm not telling you I got any funding, because then you won't give me any. But please, I encourage you to fill it out, because you know, nothing says I should fund this quite more than, wow, other people have funded you. Damn, that means this is good. So if you've got research funding you're willing to dedicate to this faculty, or you're applying for other things, let us know. It shows a level of entrepreneurialness. And also, you know, again, if I see on there that someone else has funded you, I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So remember that. So additional applicants should be prepared. Additionally, applicants should be prepared to provide brief responses about the projects. Contribution to computational social science, 500 words or less, methodology, 500 words or less, and timeline. So when are you going to do stuff? How are you going to do stuff? Why are you going to do stuff is useful, okay? And I might actually be able to pull in some of our funded folks from last year to talk about their applications. You're also welcome to ask them, you know, maybe they'll share their successful application with you. So, you know, you're welcome to reach out to them. All right. Finally, we also include a few questions about your affiliations, inquiries about what protocols exist at your institution for receiving funds. For people that are American citizens, we'll need to know that in order to be able to give you funds in a particular way. For international students, we'll need to know in order to fill out paperwork to give you funding in a particular way. For people who are not in the United States, same thing, need to know that to get you funding in a particular way. If you have any worries about filling in any of that information, let me know. We wanted to make sure that we are thoughtful while also collecting the information we need to get you funds, okay? And then finally, I mentioned a few projects that have been funded by the main site that have gone on to be published. I hope to add some from our site to that list. And as a reminder, all research projects must receive approval from the Institutional Review Board at the university or universities associated with the lead researcher on each team. So you heard from folks this year, specifically our Crown Act team, about the challenges of doing that. So you want to think about that in advance. You know, we don't want to put cart before the horse. You don't need to have it already worked out in order to receive the funding, but you definitely need it before you start to execute your projects, okay? And then it says, with best wishes from Nanette. Smooches. All right, so we can drop screen share. All right, yeah, Daniel, does this project have to be a continuation of what we are doing this week, or can we come up with a new idea for funding? You can absolutely come up with a new idea for funding. Again, you can only be on one project. So if we see you on one of these projects and then all of a sudden there's a new project, so we're probably going to check in with you. So we're trying to get funding to the largest number of people. There are always, I'd say, unlisted folks on projects or people who are busy. But we hope by the time you hit publication, everybody's names are on it. Can you please clarify about 2 people from SICSS on an individual project? 2 people from SICSS on an individual project. Yes. So if you are a graduate student, this is mainly for our graduate students, and in order for you to get IRB approval or to advance this project, your advisor needs to be added. And that's a question for Todd. So that happened at his university. At UVA, he was required in order to accept this funding for it to go to his advisor and for it to have her name on it as well. And just so you know, if you cannot receive funding directly, or if there's a tax implication to that, which you should think about, we can give it directly to your advisor or as well, or your university. So in those cases for graduate students, if another person's name needs to be added in order for you to accept the funds, that is a space where an individual project can have more than one name on it. For our faculty, that's not an issue. So if Andrea or Imani or Erica, or I'm sure I'm forgetting other faculty, we will not fund TAs, no. So we will not, for the most part, give you funding to give to a research assistant. We will give you funding for things like data collection or stuff like that. I will say there's a way to get what you need. Come see me. Okay. But if you just straight up put TA $5,000, we're not going to fund that. Okay. So you need to be very specific about the things that you need and why you need it. And once we give you the money, who knows what you do with it? I shouldn't say that out loud. Okay. So we're not going to have you fill out a report. There's some places that they give you money and they're like, we need you to do all this assurance and tell us everything you do. Nope. Put together an exceptional application. We will give you the funds and you can do the project. Incentives for survey respondents, yeah, we do that. So Mechanical Turk, if you need money for things or $5 gift cards, we definitely do that. Do you fund solo projects with just one person? Yes, we absolutely fund solo projects with just one person. If you are a graduate student, we will most likely inquire as to if your institution requires faculty's name on the IRB proposal. If that is the case, you will probably need to list a faculty member. So we will, if in those situations, we will follow up with you. Keep the questions coming. I see lots of questions. I love it. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go to the questions we got last year. So these are from Yandu. Does a principal investigator have to be a professor? For our purposes, no. But for your IRB, absolutely. Most institutions do not allow graduate students to directly apply for IRB, and some won't allow you to accept funds either. So we'll talk about that if you need to do that. Yes, PhD student could be the PI for our purposes. Do the projects have to receive IRB approval before applying for this funding? No, you do not. You've got a couple months though, so I would suggest if IRB is required for your project, it would not be a bad thing for you to have that in the works. For our graduate students, you usually choose one institution to apply, and then there's a form you file or a request that's filed through the other institutions to recognize it, so you can be part of that research as well. And it usually also requires, and this is especially for our international participants in the US context, you're also required to do something called city training. So if these are all new things to you, please write stuff on Slack and we'll start answering questions about this. But you want to probably have those things well in the works by the time you apply. You don't have to have heard to apply, but I think it's a stronger application if you're like, well, we need IRB, and look, we started the damn thing and it's submitted. I think that's a good thing. So any other questions before I jump to our shared document and announce our teams? Are there any other comments, questions? You can unmute or you can write it in the chat box. Anything you have questions about?
I just have one, Rumeysa.
Hi, Rumeysa.
Hi. The Slack, is it going to continue?
That is a great question. So Slack is a temporary thing. So it's something that if there's greater funding in the future for SICSS, I would love for them to keep it open perpetually. They do not. I think at a certain point they collapse it, and you're limited as to what you can see. So prior messages disappear. That happened yesterday because they ran out of capacity, so they had to pay more. So you all may want to set up your own Slack space, or think about how you want to stay in communication. You have the email list, so that's set up. Anytime you send an email to that email list, it will send out to the entire group. So you may want to send opportunities, or you may also want to set up a chat with just your team. So that's an important question, and thank you. And that's also important for you all who are thinking you might want to network with folks from other sites. The ability to do that in a simple way will end at the end of the summer. So all of those folks are in Slack right now, but they will not be later in the summer.
Actually, the reason I'm asking is that I'm thinking to review all the materials after the event. So I was thinking maybe it will be helpful to ask people from there but it seems it's not possible.
So there's nothing in our Slack that is not on our website for the most part. The exceptions are some forms and some documents. So I would recommend, and I said this early on to all of you, that if there are people you wanted to keep in touch with, you should absolutely start asking for emails from the beginning and maybe create a spreadsheet. You probably also should create a spreadsheet with all the documents that I've shared on Slack. So for instance, the list of research topics for people from both sites, our document that includes all the teams and all that. So I think that's a great space for leadership. So all of the external facing things are on our website, but there are definitely some things that are limited to just the people in this space. So I would recommend that you all come up with a plan to extract and keep those things, because at some point, yes, I'm glad you asked that question, you won't have access to that information anymore.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome. Any more questions? And I'm sorry I took up a little bit extra of your time, but I feel like this stuff's important. All right, so we're gonna announce our teams. So I'm going there slowly in the event that anyone still needs to do anything. It looks like it's been updated. Okay, so we only have one person who still has to pick a team. All right, so we landed on, drum roll, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. Super excited. Yay! 5 teams. So you can ultimately change the name of your team at any point. I love that some people kept the room name, but we will definitely announce you by your teams later. I love that. Samo, Valkyrie, new name unavailable. That's a great name. Parenting experts on social media, and Asha. Okay, so our teams are, drum roll, applause, the impact of maternity leave on mental health of immigrant mothers in the US. And that is made up of Susanna, Renee, BJ, and Nayantara. Woohoo! All right, next project description, investigating user response to recent Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade. How timely. All of these are so timely. Christina and Erica will say for now, until we get a confirmation from Grace about which team she's joining. Then we've got patterns and the ideas of parenting experts on YouTube. That is Rumesa. Remind me, Rumesa, are you a student or a faculty member? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I think we lost her, but we'll check in on that. To find out if we need to potentially add a person later as an advisor, but the presentation will just be our solo folks if it's solo. Next one, text analysis of domestic violence, Rebecca, Amber, Andrea, Imani, Daniel, and Gatumsa. All right, so we're waiting on Grace to pick a team. And then finally, final drum roll, part C, EI eligibility determination for children with diagnosed medical conditions from Asha, Jane Squires advisor. I love saying that like it's the producer or the director of a movie, with Jane Squires advisor. All right, so the teams are set. Super excited to hear presentations from all of y'all. Since we have 5 teams, I think it's 5, I just closed it. So plan on about 20 minutes. All right, so we'll do 20 minutes presenting, and then we'll try to include some, actually, I need to do my math there. So probably around 20 minutes, there'll be time for Q&A in there. So I'll announce that later and be very clear, but we wanna leave time for, so presentations and Q&A. I wanna tell you, so again, this will not be recorded. So we want you to come as you are, share thorns, roses, and we are inviting all of our TAs, all of our speakers, I don't know if they'll all come, TAs, speakers, sponsors, to come hang in the room and ask questions and give you feedback. You know, if you want to stack the deck and give some other teams questions you want to answer, shh, I won't tell anyone except everyone who's seeing me record this. So we want this to be a fun experience for you, okay? Yeah, do we have 20 minutes for each project or for all the project? Oh, no. We have like hours, I think, like hour 40 minutes, I think, for that whole session. I love how the closed captioning is like no right now. I don't know if anybody else can see that. It's great. So I'll fill you in later on this afternoon, probably right before our lunchtime talk. I'll do the math and figure out how long you have, but you'll have time period to speak, and then we'll have, you can make requests in there about the type of feedback or questions you have open. I'd recommend that. And then you'll get feedback. So I'll provide some background information on the structure of your presentation and how long and stuff later today. I haven't done the math yet in the noggin, so I will figure that out and let you know long before Friday. All right, I think that potentially does it for my list. I'm speaking slowly so I can find my document and double check. Yep, that's it. All right, so if there are no questions, feel free to, the rooms are open. Today's rooms are famous Black women, I believe it's ballet dancers, opera singers, and artists, and they are labeled. So there may be some you recognize, some you don't. If you don't know, now you know, tell folks. Super excited about those. I run an arts nonprofit, so that tries to bring attention to folks like these. So nightoutnightoff.org. Shout out. All right, everybody head to talk to your people, figure out what room you're going to. Misty, Michaela, Amy, Kay, Camilla, Janae, Preti, Laura, all sorts of cool names. See you soon. Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.